Good afternoon and welcome to the People Connect podcast. I am Nichelle Womack, your host, and I thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be here. I am so excited to introduce my guest to you. If you are interested in revitalizing your career, she has some information to share with you today because I know each and every one of us, we want to get to that next level in our life, in our business, and in our career, and she's going to share everything that you need to know, at least a little bit of it. That you need to know to help you get to that next level. So today's broadcast is brought to you by Motor Club of America. And if you are not familiar with Motor Club of America, it is a roadside assistance company that basically can help you if you're ever stranded or anything of that nature to help you get back on the road. And they also offer free unlimited towing too. And so when you think about that, keep that in mind if you ever get stranded or whatnot and you need something. I know we have a lot of teens going back to school, and so having them some roadside assistance on the side is greatly and is always needed. So please keep that in mind. So Dr. Johnson, she went to Penn State and she is a career coach. And she can help you, as I mentioned, get to that next level. Her company, she's the owner and principal consultant of Dr. MCJ Consulting. And I'll go ahead and allow her to go ahead and manifest into our lives by helping us rejuvenate our careers. Hey, Dr. Johnson, how are you?
Hello. Hi, how are you today?
I am magnificent. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be with the People Connect podcast. Our viewers greatly appreciate you. So can you tell us a little bit about what you do and how we can rejuvenate our careers?
Sure. Well, again, I'm Dr. Monique Johnson, and I am a career coach. I mostly work with women, but I'm not exclusively limited to women. But I help women who are looking to own their ideal role and are looking to transition and find opportunities that speak to their heart. There's so much of, what we do. Sometimes we change over time, and we may not actually be working and manifesting our gifts in the way that we would like to. So I help women to transition. It's all based on my own personal experience as well as some of my academic work. But that is my goal, to help women land with their feet on the ground no matter where they are.
Right. And I know sometimes, Dr. Johnson, people at this particular time with a lot of companies laying off and things of that nature, sometimes it's kind of hard because we don't know whether we need to go back into that same field or if we need to reinvent ourselves and go into another field. What would be your advice for those clients?
Well, I really think that we need to engage in self-discovery. It sounds sort of cliche to some extent, but you don't want to, I know at my age, I don't want to just jump from one thing to the next. I want to really do something that is meaningful and something that I enjoy. There's nothing worse than getting up every day and going and doing something that you don't like or that you don't enjoy or that you don't feel like you're helping people or serving in some way. So I believe that self-discovery is very, very important. And what that means is it means really listening to yourself. So often we're trained to listen to other people and so on, but we need to listen to ourselves. And what that means is, perhaps working with a coach or at least asking yourself some really tough questions. What is it that I really like? What is it that I don't like? What makes me light up inside? It could be something that you're doing as a hobby that could actually turn into a business or to a profession or something of that nature, but really doing some self-examination before you make that leap. Mm-hmm. And once you determine what it is that you want to do, then you take the necessary steps and network and so on and so forth, build your portfolio credentials and so on. But I believe that listening is important. I think we need to really embrace whatever it is that we've discovered about ourselves. We can't be timid. You have to, really kind of shout it from the rooftops. This is what I'm going to do now and own it. And then, affirm as well as decide.
Exactly.
Make a decision.
Make that decision. I think that's the beginning of everything, making that decision. I know me personally, I had several transitions in my life from different career stages. Some kind of way I always ended up doing the same thing. But, when I'm talking to people about career change, just as yourself, we're always looking at perhaps maybe, as I mentioned, staying in that same field. So what specific things if somebody wants to transition outside of really evaluating yourself? Because we have social media now. And social media,
Right.
'cause that's where I met you, it allows
Right, right.
network, as you mentioned, with so many different people. And I personally believe your network is your net worth. And so when
Mhm.
we're talking about social media and getting on there, what kind of tips would you suggest to people as far as reaching out? Questions they should ask.
Right. Well, people that are in careers or doing something that you are interested in doing, I would, recommend that you make a connection with that individual. Someone reached out to me recently, a younger lady who lives in the area where I am here in Cincinnati, and she wanted to know how I got my consulting clients. Like, how do you do that? What do you do? And so on and so forth. So really being somewhat bold and trying to reach out and make a connection with someone who's working in an area that you are working in.
Mhm.
It could be a friend of a friend's, talking to them, really trying to understand what a typical day is like, what the work really entails. Is it something, does it just look kind of glorified to you? Is it really what you want to do? Or, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes things look a lot more, what's the word, dazzling, or a lot more
Grass is green
attractive
on the other
than they,
side.
right.
Yes.
Exactly. So you really want to develop a realistic perception of whatever it is that you're looking to do. And you have to be bold to some extent and not be afraid to reach out, or you can have someone sort of make a connection for you.
Hmm.
That helps as well. But just being active on social media, I'm not really a social media person per se, but I understand the value of it in terms of being an entrepreneur. I understand I've made a lot of great connections, as we talked about our connection, and I've made some connections with other individuals as well. So it is very, very valuable, and it's amazing actually when we think back on, when I think back on when I was in college, we didn't have social media. So it's pretty amazing that you can connect with someone way, around the world, even around the country. So I think it is valuable, and I think we should definitely use it as a resource
Hmm.
to make connections with people.
Well, how valuable is a resume today versus when we graduated from college? How valuable is it?
I think they're very valuable. I don't think I wrote a blog post,
Mhm.
um, you know, about it, and I don't think they'll ever go out of style, so to speak. Now, it is different in the sense that a lot of companies use, software where they sort of feed the resumes and they look for keywords and things like that. So it is important that your resume reflect, certain terminology that they're looking for. But absolutely, resumes will never ever go out of style. You need one. As far as the careers that you're interested in, you can be a little more creative, I think. If you're in an art related field, you certainly can use some of your creativity in
Mhm.
that way. But you definitely need a resume.
Mhm.
Definitely need one.
Yes, because I know even with the emergence, as we were talking about social media, people think, oh, I'm on LinkedIn. I don't need that. When really that's a visual resume for you, but still having one in your hand, you're saying that's still good to have.
I think so. I think it is important to actually have a hard copy of a resume. You
Mhm.
always want to be prepared. You don't want to, uh, the way to be ready is to stay ready. We hear that saying all the time. You don't want to have to scramble to produce a resume, when you need one. So it's always good to have it, I think, in the event that you may be speaking or whatever the case may be.
Mhm.
But it is a valuable tool.
What about gaps in in employment?
Well, I actually was one of those people that had a little bit of a gap.
Mhm.
I you as well. I took some time to be with my family, relocated with my spouse for his company, and ended up having children back to back. It wasn't part of my plan, but it was part of God's plan, or whoever your higher power is. So I have three beautiful children. But I've always stayed somewhat active, doing something, whether it was part time work or volunteer or teaching online.
Mhm.
Uh, I think that you just have to be able to explain, what those gaps are, and why those gaps,
Mhm.
exist.
You
Um,
made a great point though, because people take time off for family. And I personally believe that parenthood is like a CEO, in a company,
Exactly.
because you have to lead and guide your house. And you stayed active. I mean, that's key. I mean,
Hmm.
doing something to show that you still have some type of creativity, that you're still perhaps maybe doing something in your profession that you were doing before.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
But yes, I don't have a profound answer for the gaps other than being able to talk about them if people ask, and just talking about the fact that you took some time to spend with your family and to raise your children.
Mhm.
Some may not look upon that favorably, but it's the truth.
Yes. Yes.
It is the truth, and as I said, I think just maybe spending some time constructing how you would respond to that in a professional manner or in a professional way,
Mhm.
and having it be more of not seeing it as necessarily a negative, because I don't see it as a negative. I took a couple years, as I said, where I wasn't really doing anything, and I would do it again because my family needed me at that time.
Exactly. I agree. I mean, that's just something to me, those are life skills that you can take into the corporate place and incorporate them into your business or whatever it is that you do.
Exactly, exactly. So you're the CEO of your residence,
Hmm. Your
so to
finances,
speak.
your house, whatever. Yes, that's what I always say. I was the CEO of my own organization in my home, and
Hmm.
those are some skills because people, women in particular, we devalue ourselves sometimes from the skills that we have available that we can apply and add to our lifestyle in the corporate place as well into our own enterprise.
Exactly, exactly. It takes a lot of time management and organization. My husband and I actually have a real estate business as well.
Okay.
So
Yes.
I wear many hats in a given day. We decided to buy rental property, so we are investment as well as a rental property organized company. And so
Okay.
we do that on the side. That was something that I started to do as I was taking those couple of years off. We ventured into real estate.
Yes, and as a real estate broker and investor, I can tell you those are sometimes you have to go back and make certain because everything is orderly and it has to be done in an orderly way, especially when you're thinking about growth and opportunity in relation to that. What would you say are some big no-nos when you are re-entering the workforce?
Well, I was reading an article really the other day that really resonated with me.
Mhm.
And in terms of the interview, it talked about not appearing desperate
Oh.
and not, I'll do anything. I'll work extra hours and all of that. Although, most of us have pride, and I would never approach it that way. But there are some people who really may be in dire straits and want to appear eager and anxious, but at the same time, that may be a little over the top for some people. So, I would always maintain your professionalism,
Mhm.
especially in in the interview situation, and just be your authentic self. You
Yes.
don't have
And
to promise that you're going to part the earth and jump over the water if
Mhm.
they give you the job. So that's something I think that's very important.
Those are some great interviewing tips. I mean, we always talk about looking at people straight in the eye when they're talking and your body positioning and things of that nature. And I know sometimes people still have a difficult time transitioning from that, especially if they haven't been in the workforce in a while or if they're new to looking for a job again.
Hmm.
Yes. And so,
Absolutely.
go ahead.
I think also it's important to get a sense of the culture of the organization in an interview situation. You want to understand what the dynamics are, and whoever is interviewing you should be able to talk about the culture of the organization. And of course, you're expecting that it would be favorable. So you don't want to be in a in an
Right.
environment where your interviewer cannot speak positively about the workplace setting that you'll be working in. So that's something that I think is important. So I would suggest that you always have some questions prepared for
Mhm.
the interviewer, that you always think ahead of time about the fact that this is a opportunity for you to see if it's a good fit for you, as well as them trying to see if you are a good fit for the organization.
Exactly. So
So it goes
interviewing them too.
right, it goes both ways.
Mhm.
Definitely goes both ways.
I totally agree. And so when people are working at home moms, stay at home moms and things, because I meet a lot of them, they've been at home for so long and they don't know how to transfer those skills back in there. As you mentioned earlier, talk about the things that you've done in the past, perhaps maybe incorporate some of those things that you're doing now for that new position. And so when we're talking about development and growth, would you suggest somebody to go back to school, perhaps maybe if they're displaced or what?
Sure, if that is something that they just determine is necessary to do whatever it is that they've determined they want to do,
Okay.
absolutely. I think going back to school is always an option. If that fits for your life and for your family,
Hmm.
certainly, certainly. People transition all the time to different careers and occupations, and I think it depends on your life circumstance. Like, I listened to one of your podcasts, and I hear that you are in a PhD program. I think that's awesome. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
I don't want to do that again. So if I transition to something else,
Mhm.
I am not going back to school. However,
Mhm.
I would get certifications and things of that nature. But going back to school for me would not be something I would want to do at this stage of my life. But for someone else who may be, younger than me, they may want to enroll in school to get to where it is that they want to be. But I think, uh, you know, I think staying connected in some way
Mhm.
is important. So even if you volunteer, I did that as well. I
Mhm.
started out volunteering for the United Way for a reading program and
Mhm.
ended up being program director.
Wow.
And expanding this reading program that started in one elementary school to 5 elementary schools and working with 200 volunteers and
Mhm.
training 200 volunteers. And that all started because I was new to the area,
Mhm.
and I was invited to be on a committee and then on a board. And then, you know, so there are a variety of different ways to kind of keep your foot in the door, so to speak,
Mhm.
and, develop your skills over time. There are a lot of different courses and uh, programs that you can be involved with that will help you to sort of get your groove back, if you've been out for a little bit or if you've been home for a while.
Hmm. And I like that too because I think volunteerism is so important in, especially if you want to transition to a new career. And just like you said, you were blessed because you got the opportunity to go on and work there and not just be a volunteer again. So people need to
Mhm.
keep that option open as well.
Mhm. 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 Absolutely.
Many
Absolutely.
different things that they can do. What about transferring to different states?
You mean moving to a different
Yeah.
state, relocating?
Hmm.
Well, that's something that I've experienced. I have moved 5 times.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we determined that my husband's career would lead
Hmm.
because of the nature, the type of job that he had. So as a result, he's sort of been progressing. So we've moved
Hmm.
5 times. Did I know that when we first got married? No, I didn't. I didn't know that.
Uh-huh.
However, it is what it is, and we are a unit. So each location, it took me a little time to get acclimated, but I actually had the benefit of a corporate move, so not everybody has that. I understand that, and so what I mean by that is, that you can work with a counselor, career counselor. They'll help the spouse,
Hmm.
do your resume and things of that nature. But I certainly think it's definitely it's doable. It takes time.
Hmm.
You have to be willing to kind of step out of your comfort zone. Sometimes, there may be most places that I've lived, I did know at least a couple people because we were moving there with the company. So there was always someone that knew someone and said, you should talk to so and so, or you should talk to this person, or you should talk with that person. But I do think that, moving with a family, you have the opportunity to get acclimated. Visit. I did a lot of research online to get a feel for different things and to see if they had what I was looking for in that community. And sometimes they didn't. And, I just kept moving forward and looking at it as an opportunity.
Hmm.
And so each place, I will say this, each place, some places I liked better than others. I've
Hmm.
lived in Georgia, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts,
Hmm.
Ohio twice, and Missouri.
Okay.
So each place, I feel like I grew and I learned and had a positive influence in some way.
Yes.
So,
And you just brought up another great point too. Sometimes as women, being that you coach specifically women, we have to make those transitions with our
mhm,
spouse and move our career as well to that next level. So you have to be prepared to reinvent yourself, no matter if you're married or single, because the situation may allow that.
right, right.
So it's
Yes,
important. Yes.
right, right. And, change, is not always easy, but
Mm-mm.
it's certainly doable. And I think your attitude, your mental attitude, and how you approach it and how you think about it will
Right.
make all the difference.
All the difference.
All the difference. I always look at things as like a priceless detour. It wasn't part of my plan, but it was priceless. I
Hmm.
learned from it. It was valuable in some way. And,
Yes. Move on.
right, basically.
Yes, yes. So, Dr. Johnson, tell us how we can how the viewers can get in contact with you and what you have available. You do have a freebie form as well.
I do. My freebie is available on line. It's bit.ly lead ebook.
Mhm.
And it's about a 13-page ebook with, it's like a workbook with exercises and questions to get you thinking about your next move or your potential goals or whatever it is that you're considering or thinking about. So it's a great resource for that. My website is drmoniquecjohnson.com, and that's my career coaching website. And you can access my freebie there and have other information about coaching, my group coaching program, one-on-one coaching, other services that I offer, as well as a couple blog articles. I don't have many just yet, but I'd love to hear from anyone.
Yes, yes. And it all starts because it sounds like you too have recreated yourself to go in your destiny and your path that is meant for you.
I absolutely have. I think, a lot of my experience, as I said, I was a assistant director for career services for a while in a college university setting,
Mhm.
but I've combined all of that into my coaching program, which is called the Lead Coaching Program. But it's all born of just transition
Mhm.
and relocating and having great experiences, some not so great, but using that to just be positive and lead a fulfilling life. And I'd like to help other women do that as well.
Yes, and I agree. Sometimes people may have a difficult time doing that. And so it's so important to connect with people who have been in where you are and to help you transition to that next stage because it can be very lonely at that point,
Hmm.
especially when you are, fired from a job, laid off, or you have to transfer to another location. It's so important to
Absolutely.
connect with people that have done and been through what you're going through right now.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Well, thank you so
Absolutely.
much. What about your social media connections?
Oh, I am on Instagram at Dr. DRMCJ Consulting. I'm on Twitter as the same, Dr. MCJ Consulting. And I have a Facebook page. It's Dr. Monique C. Johnson. So I'd
Awesome.
love to connect. Absolutely.
And you have some great stuff on your Twitter page because I'll read it too. So,
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I do have a team that helps me out in terms of making it look pretty.
okay.
It's my content, but they make it look pretty for me. So
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yes. That's all a part of reinventing, recreating. You got to make certain look pretty and packageable. So,
Exactly. Exactly. And that's not my strength area. So we also need to ask for help for those things that we know we don't have the time for and we don't have the talent for.
exactly. That's a great point too, Dr. Johnson, because I work with people strategizing with through life and business, and I always talk about the SWOT analysis, and the strength
Mhm.
is really the core element of what develop us and to show us where our weaknesses and our opportunities and our threats are. So that's a great
Absolutely.
point. When you know you're not strong somewhere, it's good to pull somebody in that can help you develop those weaknesses.
Exactly. Exactly. And even to take that one step further, which I didn't mention is, career assessments. That's one of the things that I do as well as I will administer career assessments, strengths finders,
Mhm.
fascinate. There's a variety of different assessments that I use with clients if
Mhm.
they need them to help them to understand and to pull out their strengths and talk about it in a way that makes sense to them.
Right, right. Yeah, so key and so important. Well, Dr. Johnson, thank you so much. I'm so glad that we connected with one another and you took time out of your busy day to be a part of the People Connect podcast.
Well, I thank you so much for the invitation. I really, really appreciate it. And I look forward to connecting with you more in the future.
Awesome. Yes, as well. Until next time, I'm Nichelle Womack signing off right now for the People Connect podcast. Join us every Thursday here on our Facebook page for our live broadcast where we will bring to you positive people of inspiration, motivation, and provide that information to help you personally or anybody else you know excel in their life to the next level. You can connect with me here on Facebook at 2Excel with Nichelle. I'm on Instagram and on Twitter at Nichelle Womack. Until next time, blessings and peace unto you. Bye bye. Thanks, Dr.
Bye
Johnson.
bye.
Take care. Bye bye.